So let's face it, a lot of us are working from home, maybe the lab's shut down, or you're staying home just to be safe. But if you've never worked from home, how do you be productive? Today we're talking about strategies in how to be effective while working at home. Hi here, Dr. Ken Dutton-Regester, and today we're talking about how to be more productive while working from home. But before I get into that, I thought I'd just give you a bit of insight as to where we're currently recording. So I'm in my backyard, couldn't get into the lab, obviously because it's a little bit locked down, it's a little bit dicey to get out there. So I thought I would set up my cancer biology themed escape room and film in here. So if you're curious about that, I've recently set up a science communication business startup called Excite Science, and we're doing activations explaining complex science in fun and creative ways. This is one of those activations, and if you want to find more about it, check up here. So, I work regularly from home, and it's something that I've managed to do pretty successfully, maybe not all the time, but I've definitely picked up some strategies on how to do it effectively. So today I thought I would compile them into a list, and then also include a number of other strategies that I've seen other people using or suggesting on different social media platforms. So let's get into it. So tip number one is to establish a routine or schedule. Now it's really important, much like any other normal day, even if you're working in the lab, to set out what you want to achieve each day. Now preferably you do this the night before, but you can also do this right before at the start of the day. Keeping that schedule outlined exactly when you want to fit things in helps you stick to those things and make sure that you make your day productive. Now, if you want to know how to be a productive scientist, I also recorded this video up here, which will give you some extra insights not included in this video. So tip number two is to include your house tasks into your schedule. Now, when you're working from home, it's very obvious that it is your living environment. And as such, there's going to be that temptation to potentially clean the house if you're trying to distract yourself. Now, this is going to be inevitable and you have to embrace it. What I've found is if you can actually plan around of when you're going to do house tasks into your schedule, it can allow you to have a bit of a break while still being productive. So if you can, schedule in particular house tasks. Maybe it's cleaning the dishes at lunchtime. Maybe it's putting a load of washing on after you've done an hour of emails. Putting them into your schedule can help you do that, but not also use it as a procrastination tool, because let's face it, it's very tempting to get procrastinated when you're working from home. Now, tip number three, which I don't personally do, but I've seen a lot of people recommend, is if you can, or if you have the space, set up a specific space where you do all of your working. So maybe this is setting up a office space in a spare room. Maybe it's just designating a particular different part of the house to that is the location that you do all of your office work. Now the temptation is to be doing your work where you commonly relax. And that can send mixed messages to your body as to what you're doing. Now, again, I don't do this personally. I actually just do a lot of my work on the lounge. But I've heard a lot of people find that being in that environment, it's very distracting to see the TV there and have that temptation to turn it on and maybe watch YouTube for 5 minutes, which then turns into a 5-hour binge session. So if you can, set up a separate environment to do your work. Now, tip number four is to divide and conquer. Now, if you have responsibilities or you've got children, for example, I've got a 3-year-old, you may need to divide your time up between caring for them and doing your work. Now, this can be done in combination with a partner if you have one, but trying to do all of it at once is very challenging. So ideally, if you do have a partner, maybe you have one day on, one day off, and you split up those differences so that each of you can begin to get more work done. Or maybe you do half a day each, and half the day you're doing work, half the day you're looking at after your caring responsibilities. There are a bunch of strategies out there to how to work at home if you're looking after kids and you don't have a partner or you have that main responsibility. I might put a few links up in the show notes here that explain this way more better than how I could explain. Now, tip number 5 is prepare like it's a workday. Okay, so you've set up all of your different parameters, you've got a workspace, you've got your schedule, you know what your duties are doing, you know that you're going to be working in these certain hours. What do you do now? You're ready to get into it. One of the tips that I've found interesting, again, which I don't do, but I might start trialing, is to prepare your day like it is a workday. And so this means waking up, putting on some form of clothes, maybe the similar clothes that you wear to work, and physically get out of the house. Now, some people just recommend doing a 5-minute walk around the house before you get into your day. Not only does that sort of get that oxygen and blood flowing, but it resets your brain to make you focus on, okay, I'm now going through this routine, I'm going to work. It replicates that sort of process of traveling to work, whether that's, catching a bus or commuting to work. It's just that mental mind shift to help you focus at the challenge at hand, which is getting your work done. So people recommend doing this before, 5 minutes at a minimum before you start work, and then also at the end of the day. So once it hits 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whatever time that might be, and you finish for the day, go outside, get that fresh air, do a 5-minute walk, and use that to reset your brain to then get into that relaxation mode. So tip number 6, have a lunch with your colleague. Virtually, of course. So it is a little bit weird working in a virtual environment or a digital environment, but a lot of labs, I don't know about you, but we're very social when we have lunch, and missing out on that connection with another human being or a colleague or another scientist can be a real big deficit to your productivity, or at least your ability to communicate your ideas or bounce ideas or confront different challenges with someone else. So one idea that I've seen circulating quite recently is to schedule in an hour block where you have a lunch digitally with another colleague. So here you book it in, you get your lunch ready, and then you just use that time to eat in front of each other and then maybe chat as you would if you were in the break room. I think this could be a really interesting way to keep those conversation dialogues going. I haven't tried it yet, but I'm definitely going to be trying it soon. Idea number 7 to boost your productivity while working at home is make back-to-back meetings. So I find if you make back-to-back meetings, maybe they're half an hour or hour long, having that sort of rigid time frame that you've immediately got to talk to someone else really keeps you on point and talking about the task at hand without getting distracted. This also means you can pack in a lot of information and meetings all in one day to allow yourself to focus more on other deep work or mind-intensive activities on other days. I do find it's very hard to go from a meeting straight into working on a paper. That's just me personally. So I find making these back-to-back meetings can be a real effective way of batch getting all those connections, talks, discussions around new papers, new grants, onboarding new stuff. That can be a really great way to get it all done in one space and time to allow yourself to focus for the rest of the week on other activities. So tip number 8 is to prioritize exercise. It's very tempting when you're working from home and you're not really exiting the house to sort of get into that very comfort zone. But I find after a couple of days or even a couple of weeks without doing any exercise can be detrimental to your productivity. So spending the time, even if it's just an hour a week of doing something really hard and physical, can keep you on point. Another idea is maybe you fit that into tip number 8, which is in your 5-minute walk at the beginning of the day, maybe you extend that into something a little bit more intense, maybe a half-hour walk, maybe even a 15-minute run, whatever it is, whatever type of exercise that you can do, that really makes you energized is definitely worthwhile doing. Tip number 9 is make sure you're getting your sleep. It can be very tempting if you have a really slack day, or maybe you've spent the whole day YouTubing or watching Netflix and you didn't plan to do that, to then spend, 5 hours or 6 hours at night digging in till 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. to try and fit those goals. It's doable, and if you're in a pinch, definitely go for it. But in terms of longevity and being able to do that back to back, it really does affect your productivity, because the next day you're going to wake up and it's likely you're probably going to be very sleepy. And trust me, if you're sleepy and you're working from home and you're on the lounge or you're near the bed, particularly after lunchtime, it's a very high chance that you might go for a nap that may be longer than 15, 30 minutes, 1 hour, 3 hours, and then your whole day's totally ruined again, and then you're in this vicious cycle. So prioritize getting your sleep done so that you can be on point and active when you start the day. Point number 10, and it sort of builds off the back of that, is stay positive and give yourself a break. It's okay to have a bad day. I think it's really important that not everyone can be productive 100% of the time. So if you do happen to have one of those down days where you just feel like you haven't done anything and maybe you've just vegged out, it's okay. What you can also do is maybe schedule in more personal time throughout your week or on specific days. Maybe it's scheduling an hour of doing something like yoga or watching some TV program that you really enjoy. Spending that time to relax, I think, is really important, particularly with the situation right now with coronavirus. It's very easy to get distracted, so take the time and have some personal time to relax. So our final point today, number 11, is to track your habits. Now, once you've been working from home for a while, you'll definitely begin to know trends of things that make you productive and things that make you horribly unproductive. And so knowing those trends or those triggers that may take you down one path or the other is really important. So for me, I know that if I have the temptation to watch a YouTube video, even if it's 5 minutes at the start of the day, the chances of potentially moving on to another video, onto another video, onto another video can be very high. So I make sure to structure any type of YouTube later in the day, maybe lunchtime when I'm having some food and recharging. Another one for me is, for example, is cleaning dishes. I find that if I don't do them the night before, when I wake up in the morning, they're just going to be sitting there. It's going to be on my mind and mentally challenging me. So I find that if I clean them the night before, I know that's all clean. I don't have to worry about it. I can get into my work the next day. But if I don't, I'm always thinking about it, or I'll do some proactive procrastination, do the dishes, using that sort of first few hours of the day where I could be on point and writing really well. So knowing those different trends is really important to staying productive. So that's it. Hopefully you find some of these tips useful, and if you've got any others, feel free to put them in the comments below. Lastly, if you do happen to be in quarantine for whatever reason and you're looking to try and boost your productivity, if you missed it, check out last week's video, also included up here, which is the Academic COVID Challenge. 14 days, 14 tasks to keep you on point and improve your academic record by the end of that quarantine period.